I'm Margot Wickersham, and I live in Austin, Texas. My husband is here, a great caregiver to help me get through my journey, which began also in 2020. So that complicated things. There was lots of hospitalization by myself. Made things a little harder for everybody. And I actually had originally the wrong diagnosis, or it was incomplete. And thanks to a second opinion at MD Anderson with Dr. Kamat, I am here to tell the story of it. I'm glad to be here.
And tell us a little bit about your, I want to say, unusual diagnosis, why it required that second.
Right. There were two kinds of cancer in one place, and I thought, that's just like me, to be an overachiever, even in cancer. I had no idea. You don't know what you don't know when you enter into a journey like this. And the second kind that I had was plasmacytoid, which I understand is very rare and is especially bad. It recurs and kills is what it does. So I was really glad to get rid of it. So it is also asymptomatic, so yay for the other kind of bladder cancer to give me a little signal. Grateful to be here.
So we're starting, and I think, Margot, I'll start with you. What's one thing that you wish you had known in advance of your bladder cancer treatment?
I've thought about that question quite a bit, and there's so many things. Where do you start? But I would say, as a woman in particular, because I did have chemo and I also had the radical cystectomy. So we are brother and sister as far as that goes. That is not what you want to do. Nobody wants to have that kind of surgery and the permanent change to the way you look. And I would say that I ended up having this compressed midlife, we'll call it midlife, all right, we're just going to go with that number, midlife crisis. Who am I if I am no longer a woman who looks like this, and who's my sense of self? Who am I? Trying to understand that I could, in fact, come back to having an intact sense of self, even with a very different body. And I wish I'd known that I was going to get there, but I did get there, and that's it's one of the things that gives us hope, and that is why we want to share our stories with other people, that maybe they can avoid the worry and concern that whether they will still be intact or not. And so for me, that was I would say the biggest surprise. I certainly did. I felt very much like there was a team as a complete and total resource to me. And one of the things that other cancer patients I've talked to say they're familiar with is there's a hurry up and wait. So you have your appointment and you go, and there's a lot of waiting sometimes. And it can be really frustrating. You're trying to figure out whether you're going to live or die. It's pretty important. And it can be frustrating to have to put up with the waiting until, in my case, I was being treated at MD Anderson. As soon as it's my turn, then those doctors, those providers are there for you. They're spending the same amount of time that they did with the previous patients. I also got that. And that was extremely comforting and such an amazing way to treat patients. It's really good.
And Margot, you had also the very unusual experience in having to be hospitalized during COVID.
I don't recommend that. So on March 2nd is when we first got the news that this was much more dire and we needed to do the radical cystectomy and chemo and all of that. That was shocking, and that was right at the beginning of COVID. And so my treatments were 3 nights in the hospital for 4 types of chemo every other week for 8 weeks. After the initial one, where my husband could be with me, every single other time he dropped me at the door. He couldn't even come in.
That's why you said you were alone.
I was so alone, and you're scared, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you feel continually worse as the progressive chemos are dripping into you, and it's scary and lonely and really hard. And I could see the team working extra hard to be caring and supportive and loving and trying to make up for the fact that none of us had any family members or had anybody who could come in there and help just pat our heads. And then 6 weeks after that, I had the surgery, and that was, I believe, 6 nights in the hospital.
By yourself?
By myself. And it was miserable. And I will say that I'm a positive person by nature. That really put me to the test. There were points where I felt like giving up, and that's unfamiliar to me. But I truly did. It's so miserable, so lonely. You feel horrible. And yes, you know this is going to save your life, but it doesn't feel worth it at some moments in time. So I had to stop and think, what's my why? And you said it today at breakfast, it's love, it's the relationships. I have 2 amazing kids. They've already lost their father. I have an amazing husband. I have friends. And I thought, they'd probably be really bummed if I checked out. Okay, I'll keep fighting. And that's what got me through. And I learned that being brave and courageous didn't mean that I had to summon this amazing amount of power and motivation and energy. I realized at that moment, I just need to not die to keep fighting today. That's all that I need to do. I just need to keep breathing, and to sort of lift the expectation that courage and bravery and continuing to go through the battles, even when you're lonely and you're tired and you're exhausted and you feel horrible, to know that it's okay for the courage and the bravery to be missing completely, and to just keep plowing forward, just keep breathing, just keep swimming, like in Nemo.
Yeah. So that brings up something that
That's a loaded question. There's so many things. I'm going to bring it down to a couple things specifically, though. I learned a long time ago that I felt better when I thought about something I could feel grateful for. And I called it the grateful game. Y'all, this is in the 90s. It's a long time ago. We weren't talking about gratitude as a coping skill then, or self-compassion, or any of those kinds of things. But I just found that I felt better when I thought of something that I could feel grateful for. And so I started the exercise of journaling and writing down. And sometimes you have to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I am not grateful I had cancer. I am not grateful it's during COVID. I am not grateful, et cetera, et cetera. Wait, that's not the list. Start over. And I found that starting with the most minuscule things, like I'm grateful I have 2 eyes and I can see. I'm grateful I have clean drinking water. The whole earth doesn't have that, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for a loving family. I'm grateful for 2 kids who are alive. I'm grateful it was me and not them who got the cancer. And then that exercise helps change my mindset so that it feels less fear-based and more gratitude-based. In fact, I wrote a book about it, y'all. It's called Gratitude in the Storm When Not Dying Is Enough to Keep Fighting. Because I realized that it is so easy to get wrapped up in the diagnosis and the numbers. My caregiver said, don't look up the numbers, and that's good advice. Don't look it up. And so my thought is, with the support that BCAN gave me, for me, that was about all that was available, because all the great things that cancer centers usually offer were shut down, and my family couldn't be with me anyway. So it was I really leaned on BCAN for videos from other patients telling their stories, from articles, videos from doctors. It really helped inform me, and some information does help calm down the anxiety, or as I've heard it called, the scanxiety, for when you're coming back. Those resources and that support are what got me through, when I combine that with my primary coping skill of focusing on gratitude, even when it's just a tiny thin, razor thin slice of gratitude.
Did you look at any of the things online beforehand?
So I want to tag onto that very thing, because that was my brain when Dr. Kamat said, well, we're going to need to, he described the term he knew I could handle, which was, we need to throw the kitchen sink at it. So all the things. And when he said we need to remove the bladder, I said, well, what about a pig bladder? I mean, there's other parts of the pig, right? And then he said, well, we're not there yet. And then I said, what about 3D printing? Seems like that's come a long way. And maybe one day one of these technologies will function, but that's the dream. In the meantime, look how we can function around, despite and because of all the treatments that we have available to us now.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, Damon and John and Margot and everybody. I want everybody to join me in thanking them.